One of the best ways to improve your boating life when you're out for a weekend is to take a tender with you. A second boat to get you to and from shore. We're going to show you how to slow tow a tender. Welcome back to the Rudder. My name's Damian. We're aboard Antoinette. We're just about to go out for a night. We're going to go up to Bums Bay. If you haven't seen that video, check it out up here. We're going up to Bums Bay because it's Pacific Airshow weekend, so you might see a few planes flying around. We're hoping to grab some of that action. We're going to do that, and we're also going to take our Louis, our 3.8 meter Highfield Classic, and we're going to be slow towing. So we're not going to go above 6 knots. We're going to take it nice and gentle. And we're doing that, one, because we're in the canals, and two, there's lots and lots of obstacles. So we don't want to have your tender 20 meters behind you. You want to tow it quite close. So we're going to work out how to best tow it. We've got some very overrated tow rope. I'll show you about that in a second. I'll show you how we loop it all up here, and let's get into it. All right, we're just on board Louis, creeping around Antoinette, and just going to put her in place for our launch. So one of the reasons we're going out today is the Pacific Airshow is on. I don't know if you can hear, there's a couple of Spitfires going on top of me. Now, before we get everything sorted to take off, disconnect us. Before we get everything sorted to take off on Louis, a few things we need to do. One is obviously make sure your bilge plugs in, your bungs in, because you don't want your boat sinking while you're going. The second is, as you tow, the boat will do this. Now the Highfields do have a good nose, so they will stay pretty, that V cut will help us guide the tender. But I do just trim down the engine just a touch. Turn everything on. So where are we? Just so the rear of the engine is just touching the water, and what that does is when we're towing, obviously the bow goes up a bit, puts the engine into the water, and that acts as a sort of rudder for us. The last thing we're going to do is turn off the tender and take out your keys. So if anything bad did happen, if you hit a really big wake and it flipped over or did something that you don't want it to do, the last thing you want to happen is once you recover your tender, if you've lost your keys, then your weekend really is going to go poorly. All right, let's get everything ready. Oof. Sorry, air show. We'll get everything ready, we'll get the drone up for our launch, and we'll go from there. Probably a key component of towing is your tow rope. We're using very high grade tow rope, but you all want them to have one quality, and that is that they float. So this is called silver rope, so it will float if it goes into the water. So this we also use for high speed towing, which we'll do that video another day. So we have 20 meters here, which we won't be letting all out today. But a key point is it floats when it's in the water. So if you do come off the power, say suddenly, and your tender comes towards your main vessel, you want your tow rope not to sink underwater. The whole idea of towing is you never want your rope to be in the water anywhere near your propellers. If you do not have silver rope or a floating rope, also don't use ski rope. It's not rated, it stretches too much. Use another rope and put a buoy onto it or a fender or something like that, so if it does go in the water it floats. So now we've got Louis beside us. Let's get everything sorted so we can get underway. Now the first step is we want to keep Louis really close and away from those propellers. We want him on the side of the boat. Oh, come on. So very short lead, loop that off nice and secure. Now we want to also secure the second part of the rope somewhere. We're letting this out to the distance that we want to actually put it at, but just say it slips out of your hand while you're doing that, or anything happens, let's secure this to something else, so when we're ready to release, we're all good to go. So I'm just going to tie a bow line up here. And we won't be letting out all this rope, so that can stay there just as a safety. Alright, so that's there. So that's our safety. We've got Louis nice and close to us. Might even make that a little bit shorter. And as I said, the whole reason for this is we just don't want any of this rope anywhere near the propellers whilst we're getting out. Even though it does float, it can wrap up and go down there. Okay, we're going to get everything set. We're going to get Pippa ready. We'll get the drone up in the sky. We'll be backing out of here, spinning the boat around, then getting on our way. Once we get up to a little bit of speed and sort of away from all obstacles, we'll let Louis out to our prescribed length and we'll get going. Here we go, gently pulling out of the fab dock on our pontoon at home. You can see the other tender there on the pontoon, covered up for another day. So very gently coming out of the slip. And you'll notice Louis tied very tightly to our port side. You'd never tow for a long distance like that. It just put too much strain on the rope and on the boat. But for maneuvering, that's exactly how to do it. We weren't able to do the anchoring end of this, but you do exactly the same process of pulling the tender right in close. So any maneuvering that needed to happen, you'd not have a tender anywhere near your engine. And if you can, try and put your tender on the outside of the turn. So we're just starting our turn now, and you can see the stern of Antoinette pushing Louis away. If it's on the inside, it'll fall into the engine. So if you can be on the outside of the turn, that's great. A little bit of bow thruster to complete that maneuver and get away from that pontoon there. And now we're straightening up, trying to do some drone driving, and you'll see, there we go, thrusting to get forward. Now, one thing you will note for keen-eyed viewers is only one engine is thrusting there. We had a little bit of a mechanical issue that we did solve very shortly. So now we're underway at a very slow speed. We're just going to start keeping the rope around the cleat, slowly letting it out. And what we're probably going to do is let it out to about 10 meters. So Brooke's driving quite slowly, probably at around 4 knots. So we're probably going to keep it there and then tie it up to your cleat nice and securely, and we've still got our safety as well. Okay, we're away and off now. So we've got Louis about 10 meters behind us. Still got plenty of rope on board. We're still going a bit slow at the minute. Brooke's on the helm. So we're just going to kick it up to 6 knots or somewhere around there, a little bit slower. Just see how everything sits. So what we want to do, and you can adjust it as we need to, and this is slow towing, so we're not going center, we are on the side a little bit. So we're just coming up on a perfect example of why we've got the tender so close to us. We're just about to go past a bridge, or through a bridge. You can see the bridge there, it's quite low. It's one of those low tidal bridges that we have to worry about. So this is one of these low tidal bridges that we do need to measure and know the tides. It's almost dead low, we've just got a bit of the outflow with us. But you'll see when we go through that how Louis needs to be close, otherwise it actually turns through the bridge. So we need to have Louis close to make it through those pylons. All right, I'll just flip the camera around and we'll be ready to go. So we got Brooke on the helm heading for the middle of the bridge, as you hopefully can see. We do make it, don't worry. Brooke goes straight through the middle. You can see she's nicely placed inside the wake. and here comes the bridge. So you can see if we were too much further out, Louis might, as we make this turn through the other side of the bridge, you don't want to be anywhere near those pylons. That would be very tricky to deal with. And we just make it through that turn. And low speed turning really is no issues. So we actually just had one of those situations that we were talking about. The boat just in front of us, I think he ran aground a little bit, so that caused us to do a sudden stop. So even though we're only at 6 knots, when you do come off the speed quite suddenly, you have to be aware and collect up your tender. We're just going to go around this marker. Hold on, I'll just show you some of the air show antics. Don't know if you can see that little plane there. I'm going to tell Brooke to come all the way off the speed, and we'll watch what happens to the tender. All right. Han, can you just pull back to 0? So you can see the rope goes into the water. There we go. So at this point, you'd really want to collect up the rope before it went anywhere. You can see it does float, but we're okay. All right, we'll get underway again. So I think we've got everything we need. It's been an eventful, short little trip. We're going to go up and see this air show. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Look out for the fast towing. We'll do that when we next get out on the water, and we'll see you next time on the Rudder.